See pretty good, actually. Not too bad. All right. Yep. Welcome, everyone, to the City Council work session for Monday, February 7th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
United
States
States
of America and
and
to the republic
stands
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, could you do a roll call for us?
Yes, I believe Councilman Scaringi is absent. Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
and President Strawn.
Present.
That's 6 here, 1 absent. Scaringi.
Okay, we got a good agenda tonight, so we'll get right into it. I just wanted to mention that obviously, as you can see, us that are down here at City Hall are in council chambers for the first time in 2 years. It looks great. It's nice and bright in here. But I just wanted to mention for me, and Lori's here, she's going to give us a legitimate update in a couple minutes, but I can see the TV screen. It's a little farther away. So if I don't see you or you raise your hand, don't be afraid to speak up and just mention that, because it's a little hard and as more people join, you get smaller. So we might move this up a little bit next time, but the broader point is if there's any issues, just speak up or whatever as we work through this first meeting here. And we may go out of order a little bit because we're not sure if some people are trying to get up here or not. They have to figure out the doors and stuff like that. So first meeting back, just bear with us if anything is going on, but I think it's going to go just fine. So that being said, we'll get into it. Do we have Chief Sikorsky? Is he out there in Zoom land or? So if he's trying to get up here doing whatever, we might have to go we might go out of order a little bit depending on what happens. So we'll just keep moving on. And if Chief joins us a little later, we'll just work him right back in. So is Pat McGinnis out there? Okay. Is Brian out there, or Sharon, are you going to do this one?
Yep, I'm here for Brian. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So per our last work session, I believe both Brian and I presented that we would be proposing this particular RL to increase the salary of the assistant corporation counsel based off of candidate quality and hiring difficulty for the position from $58,000 to $60,000 per year, which is on par with other starting salaries, public sector lawyers in our particular area. After our last work session, we did extend and confirm with the candidate that we believed we had counsel's kind of straw man approval to bring this forward. And she is enthusiastic about joining the city in March. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer it with regards to either the salary parity or the particular candidate.
Any questions for Sharon on RL 2239? Okay, great. I see Dan Merkel's out there. Dan, can you tell us about RL 2245?
Yes, I'm looking to amend the budget to transfer some funds to help the cost of overtime and electricity. Electricity supply, just the supply has gone up this past year, and the LED did help over the past few years, the LED lights, but with the cost of supply for electricity has gone up, so I have to transfer some funds to try to cover that. And the overtime also, I believe, Like you mentioned, the past 2 years, you haven't had a meeting in the chambers. We didn't have overtime for 2 years neither because all the events were canceled. There was a lot of special events that signals and streets both combined and worked on weekends to help cover the cleanup, the setup. And now that came back this past year. A lot of those events, which was good. That's what we want to see. But the cost has gone up too for, overtime.
Okay. Any questions for Dan on RL 2245? Okay, thank you, Dan.
Yep, you're welcome.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
I still don't see them. Okay. All right, I see Megan out there. So Megan, we'll walk through these, and then I think at the last couple, Megan also has a couple guests from the Rumble Ponies on with us as well. So I'll let her introduce them when we get to that. But why don't we start at the top, Megan, and tell us about RL 2236.
Actually, if you don't mind, President Strawn, would you mind if we started with RL 22-42 and 43?
Okay.
Mayor Cram is on and he can kind of lead these along with our guests here.
Okay, that's fine. Go
Thank
ahead
you.
and go ahead and introduce them and tell us which one you're talking about.
Sure. Thank you. So we'll be discussing RL 22-42 and RL 22-43. We're joined on the line by representatives from the Rumble Ponies, David Sabatka, a new team owner, as well as John Bain, a general manager. Pete Popovich as well is on. I think many, if not all of council members have had a chance and a pleasure to talk with Mr. Sabatka over the last couple months since his new ownership. We're very excited about a new era of Binghamton baseball. But these RLs tonight have to do with the stadium improvements as mandated by Major League Baseball. As you'll recall, back last year, City Council approved $2.75 million in stadium upgrades to comply with the Major League Baseball requirements. And tonight we have two RLs that are kind of the start of this process in order to get these upgrades done. The first RL has to do with an agreement with Peter Popovich to proceed as an owner's representative, owners meaning both team owner and city owner, for a project management standpoint. He was the individual tasked with managing the first phase of the stadium improvements, which happened several years ago. And I can allow him after I'm done here to kind of talk about his role. The second is an agreement with Chianis and Anderson, who is a Binghamton-based architectural and engineering firm. These contracts will essentially allow for engineering professionals to design the upgrades at the stadium and prepare them for bid during the season. While baseball is being played this year, we want to do all of the work ahead of time to ensure that the designs are done, the bids are out, and that we have contractors awarded. So the day after the season ends, these contractors can work quickly to complete the upgrades under the advisement of Major League Baseball. And so these two RLs are for professional services to provide by Mr. Popovic, as well as Chianis and Anderson Engineering. And with that, I'll turn it over to either David or Pete to kind of fill in the blanks on these two RLs.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you virtually again. I'll turn it over to Pete and JB since they've really been with this project since the inception, since Major League Baseball introduced the concept of facility standards, which this project has been designed to meet so that baseball continues to thrive in Binghamton. But as the mayor said, timing is really important here, and our intent is to have all the substantive work completed by opening day of 2023 thus avoiding any penalties by Major League Baseball and any stigma by them as it regards the Binghamton franchise in terms of compliance with the standards that they've designed. Pete, as has been said, is thoroughly familiar with not just our stadium, but also with the facility standards and works on behalf of other minor league clubs. So his work will not only ensure quality, but also promptness. In terms of the firm, my understanding is it went out to bid. They were the lowest cost option. We asked Pete to vet them to make sure that they were qualified to do the work, and Pete gave them the stamp of approval. So we're here to ask you for the funding to go ahead and start the process so that by the middle of spring, hopefully, we're out there putting the different jobs that will compose this project out for bid. We can make sure that we access the materials in a timely manner. As you're all aware, there are supply chain issues all up and down the supply chain. So we want to make sure that we don't get hung up. Although most of the materials that we'll be using are very standard, we just want to make sure we don't get hung up with any kind of timing issues. And come late September, early October, we're able to go in and start this work. So thanks very much. Pete, do you have anything you want to add, JB?
David, yeah, just to clarify, I had been involved in the previous phase 1 improvements at the stadium, where the maintenance building, batting cage building, party deck, and those, the new entry in right field. So those improvements then led to my involvement in the structural repairs and maintenance project, along with the new video board. So I got involved in the pre-construction on that, putting together the RFP. So then when the MLB standards came up, I became familiar with that through what was originally submitted by Hugh & Cole as a starting point programming document. And from there, I organized the project and put together a detailed RFP for the architectural and engineering services, being very precise about the schedule and what was required from the architect engineer. So as David mentioned, we got 4 proposals, and Janus Anderson is the lowest, and we found them to be qualified to perform on the projects. They're quite anxious to get going on it. Any questions?
Yes, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Sabaka or Mr. Popovic?
I guess maybe I could clarify a little bit. The phase that we're intending now is called the pre-construction phase. So the reason that my proposal, the supplemental agreement with the city, was issued in order to move on to that pre-construction phase, so that during these months up until the project goes out for bid, that I would coordinate the entire project, including all direct purchases of equipment, furnishings, material that would not need to go through a contractor, just working through Billy Goodson to actually secure all those directly.
Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. Hello, everyone. Mr. Popovich and Mr. Sabaka, good to see you again. So for clarification's sakes, Mr. Popovich, after we move into the construction phases, which are slated for September 2022 to March 2023, there will be another supplemental agreement for your continued oversight, or will
That's
someone
correct.
else? Okay.
No,
And-
that is correct. And, you know, because of the process, after talking to Billy, we thought it best, it was a good cutoff point at the actual bidding. And then once the contracts are awarded for actual construction, then that becomes a different set of activities, and I would submit a supplemental agreement for that. And, you know, I did those exact services for the phase one improvements, jumping from pre-construction guidance then to the actual construction process as a separate supplemental agreement.
Okay. And you will be here on site providing that oversight during that entire time?
Well, I typically, as I did on all the previous projects, at a minimum, I'm there every 2 weeks, but I know exactly what's going on, and you know, each contractor has a superintendent on the project, so it's something that I've been able to keep track of.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my questions.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Sabaka or Mr. Popovic? Okay, maybe Mr. Sabaka, like we talked before, maybe closer to opening day, we'll have you come back and give us a quick update before the season starts and how we can work together to make it a great season.
Absolutely. Thank you, Council President Strawn. I'll look forward to that, and I'll look forward to seeing you all at Mirabito on opening day.
Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. 1 second. I think Councilman Burns, did you have a question?
No, I just said, you know, we'll be there opening day.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay, Megan, do you want to go back to RL 2236?
Yes, thanks, Councilman Strawn or President Strawn. I appreciate the hopping out of order there. Okay, so RL 22-36. This is to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Willatus Law Firm for grant consulting services. The city's used Willatus in this capacity since 2015, and they've actually been quite successful for us in securing grant funding for a variety of different projects. Since we first partnered up with them in 2015, they've helped the city secure more than 15 million in state and federal grant funding. So entering into this agreement will just continue the partnership with Willatus for these services.
Okay, Councilwoman Friedman, you have a question for Megan?
Yes, I do. Thank you,
Yep.
Council President.
Yep,
Hi,
go
Megan.
ahead.
How are you?
Hi, Councilmember Friedman. I'm well.
Oh, everyone's, I really appreciate, I made like a comment, like, oh, maybe we should do council member. And now everyone's been, other people are better than me at using council member instead of councilwoman. So thank you. My question is if and when we are not in an agreement with a firm that does grant consulting services, who's responsible for that? Is there somebody in City Hall that would be doing that in lieu of an outside firm?
So it often falls to the departments, is my understanding. Like planning will write a lot of their own grants, or the Parks Department. Having Willatus on board is an advantage because they are sort of more plugged in to the grant funding opportunities that are out there. And they can also take some of that grant writing off the plates of our department heads.
Okay, so overall, this is a cost saving measure per chance, or actually I'm looking now, there's no amount of money listed here. This would just be to authorize, or Or I
Yeah,
guess,
so-
sorry, I'm like processing this out as I'm saying it out loud, but
That's
Would-
okay. I apologize because I think that the agreement itself may have come in late to you guys. There was
Oh.
an addition that came in this morning.
yes,
And
yes.
that is a letter from Mulatus that spells out how their fees work.
Okay, so overall, right, I'm seeing here, I'm sorry, I had it pulled up in another tab. So the monthly payment of $5,000 would theoretically be a cost saving measure, as then we could pull in, theoretically, this firm would be able to acquire more grants than we would be, more money in grants than we would be paying them. I'm assuming that has been the case for the years prior since 2015.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. The benefit is the money that they're pulling in that our department heads or our city staff probably just wouldn't have the time or maybe even the knowledge that these grant opportunities are out there. So since 2015, that $15 million figure is what they've helped us bring in grant funding. If it helps just to kind of compare that with the monthly rate.
Mhm. Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're
Aviva,
welcome.
this is Chuck. Let me say a couple of things to jump on what Megan says. Since 2015, they've secured us over $15 million in grants. We've paid them roughly $300,000. So you got that ratio of what we've got for spending that $300,000. On top of that, I have another RL later on. It's RL 22-35, where I'll be moving $60,000 around to cover their fees for 2022.
Okay, that is a useful number. Thank you.
Any other questions for Megan on 2236? Okay. We can go to 2237.
Okay, so this RL is, this is what was in a discussion item at the last work session. If you recall, it's to authorize a grant application from the Binghamton Housing Authority to the New York State Office of Community Renewal's COVID response program. So this is the funding that would be used by the Housing Authority to replace the outdated elevators in North Shore Tower 2. I believe City Council has set the public hearing for this Wednesday's business meeting, and we're just asking for this to be expedited so that we can ensure the grant application deadline is met here. And then RL 22-40. This is to amend the 2022 budget to adjust the salary for the Youth and Neighborhood Affairs position. As some of you might know, Grace Doherty has joined our office in what was my former position. I know you all know Grace. She's a Binghamton High School grad, a BU grad, and she's worked for the city in different capacities, including parks, and as you all knew her in the clerk's office. She's been an asset really in every department that she's worked in, and we are very happy to have her back on board and here helping us out in the mayor's office. So this RL will bring her salary up to what she was making at the time she left the clerk's office last spring. That's an increase of about $2,000.
Okay, and any questions for Megan on 2237 or 2240?
And then Councilman Strawn, I don't think Chief Zukoski is going to be able to make it tonight, but if you give me a minute, I should be able to do his RL. Okay.
And then we have Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Just clarify for me, Megan, this is an appointed position, not a hired position, correct? The office, yes.
This is management tested. So I know when I was in the position, I had to take the civil service test, and Sharon might be able to speak to that a little bit better than I can with the grasp that I have on it.
Okay. Was this posted? It was something that was posted.
That's correct.
Okay.
And either way, just to clarify, when somebody goes into a tested position, right now, Megan Hyman is the only person on that list. Somebody goes into a tested position, they start out in a provisional capacity until they take that test. After they take the test, you can choose, the city may choose from the top 3 eligible candidates. It's called an eligibility list, at which point that individual becomes probationary. So Grace Doherty is appointed in a provisional capacity until the civil service list, at which point she will be probationary and have to complete an 8 to 52 week probationary period.
Thank you for that clarification.
Of course.
And I'm actually, if it's okay with you guys, I'll toss it back over to the mayor. He can do the chief's RL on the Stop DWI program.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, if you can hear me. So again, this is actually the exact same agreement that was just passed in the December meeting regarding an agreement with Broome County for the local Stop DWI law enforcement funding. We get annual on a special for the traffic diversion program funding. So this goes to support basically vehicles within the police department. So you just approved the one for 2021. The new letter came in for 2022, and I told the chief to bring it right to city council. So this is the funding that's summarized in Exhibit A, the Binghamton Police will accept from the Stop DWI program.
Okay, any questions for the mayor on 2234? Okay, Mayor and Megan, do you want to, either one of you want to cover for Pat McGinnis, or how do you want us to handle that?
Yeah, let me take a quick look here. Yeah, and Chuck can speak to RL 22-27. This is to cover some overages in the 2021 budget. So these are small amounts that are being transferred to travel and training and temporary services. 22-28 is an annual agreement with the Broome County government for meal service at the First Ward Senior Center. First Ward Senior Center is one of many across the county that has a hot lunch program that also was able to provide meals during COVID as well. So this is to renew an agreement with Broome County Office for Aging for the Meal on Wheel sites, which our site in the First Ward is one of them.
Okay, council member, I can't see, I'm having trouble seeing there. Friedman, gotcha.
Thank you, President Strad. Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Good.
Okay, so my question is, I'm sure I ask this every year and I forget the answer every year. This contract is usually for 1 year and needs to be renewed every single year.
That's how Broome County proposes those, and that's how it gets approved through the legislature. Correct.
Okay, got it. And is there, do you know when the original contract was approved, the one that we keep renewing, the same version of it?
I'm not sure. No, I mean, we've had hot meal service for many years at the senior center. We're just one location. There's some other locations listed, including, Deposit, Methodist Church in Shenango Bridge. The Housing Authority also takes advantage of it. So we're basically receiving services from Meals on Wheels through the Broome County Office for Aging.
Right, gotcha. I was just curious about that last question. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other things on 2227 and 2228? Okay, thank you, Mayor and Megan, appreciate it. Chuck, you're still out there?
I am.
Okay. If you have your agenda, why don't you just walk us through? I won't read each RL or say them. Just go through each one, give us a chance to ask a question, and we'll just go to the next one.
Okay, there's a series of them related to ARPA funds. When I was doing the reconciliation for the end of the year that was due on January 31st, I came across some different errors that occurred in the processing of them. The first one is to amend the 21 general fund for loss of revenue. The total amount of loss of revenue that we recorded on the books is like $12,400,000 some $1,000. We also did a transaction when we transferred part of that money to the ramps fund and the refuse fund. We hit like it was a lost revenue account again. That was not correct. So I'm just reversing that transaction out and running it through the general fund as a normal transaction. The way I had done it, basically we're overstating use of ARPA funds by $450,000. This will put that back in. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that.
Any questions on 2231 for Chuck?
If you look at the uses of funds that I sent you, it wasn't recorded as such, but when we did legislation, we recorded it as such, and this is correcting what is in unison to make that correct for all of our reporting processes. The next one is 2232 is on the premium pay. We had a similar type situation when we gave out premium pay to police and fire. We gave it based off of earnings in 2020, 2021, and I had to estimate what people would earn in overtime from the time we gave it out to the end of the year. The biggest mistake that I made is we paid the 2020 ARPA funds for premium pay in 21, so both years had to go to their total salary. If that person went over $101,700, I think was the exact, that isn't the exact number, but that was close to the number, then none of those ARPA funds could be used for that without asking for some type of an exception from the Treasury Department. Talking to our consultant, I knew this from day one that we shouldn't really ask for the exception, that we put it to use fund balance to pay for those people. The problem is that because I was using 20 to go against 20 and it should have gone against 21, a lot more people went over the 101 number. Thus, I have to transfer these funds, basically 193,000 from the fire department, 42,000 from the police department to use general fund money. That's what this transaction's doing. And it also reduces the amount of ARPA funds that we said we were going to use by that total, which is about $233,000. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that. Basically, what this is doing, this is giving us more ARPA funds to use in the future.
Any questions on these first two ARPA for Chuck? 31 and 32.
2233 is to amend the 21 golf fund.
Pardon me.
Chuck,
I
Chuck,
see
hold on one
Councilmember
second.
Freeman.
Councilwoman Riley has a question. Councilmember Friedman, go ahead.
Sorry, does Councilwoman Riley have a question? Because she can go.
She was pointing to you.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting
Thanks.
used to
It took me a little-
seeing all this. So
No, that's fine. It took me a little while to process my question. So, hi, Chuck, how are you?
Good.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, because the premium pay was a use of ARPA funds that was explicitly mentioned, and that therefore we could, and we did, take money from ARPA to give to police, the police and fire departments. So my question is, I understand this budget transfer, but I guess if we're taking money from the general fund to give premium pay to the police and the fire departments, I wonder, are we then opening ourselves up for questions from other essential workers that could be given money from the general fund to, like, are we sort of playing favorites now, so to speak, because we're now taking money from an unencumbered, unspecified source instead of a specified source? Does that question make sense?
I understand what you're saying. We also
Okay.
gave it to the CSCA union. Okay. I know the current mayor is having me work on some information of giving some premium pay to our DPW workers. That's not in place right now, but it is, I'm putting together what the cost is gonna be. So the answer to your question is yes, but I think we've already gone down the road of knowing that we're gonna have to do that.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Chuck, go ahead to 2233.
2233 is to amend the 21 golf fund budget. The first item is I originally budgeted for money to be paid out of other debt account for the lease on our golf carts. It should have came out of equipment lease rental. So I'm just moving that money from the one line to the actual line we're going to pay it out of. The second line is to cover some extra expenses that were over budgeted on for promotions and marketing by $2,817. And we're moving that money from credit card fees that we didn't spend. Any questions there? The next one is 2235 is to amend the 2022 general fund for economic development and professional services. This is related to the Walitas contract that we discussed earlier with Megan and Jared. The total expected cost for this year is $60,000. We're taking money from vacant positions so far this year, 7,962 from the economic development director, 6346.50 from the assistant personnel director, $1,283 from an empty code enforcement officer, 3461 from a website design person, and 4,077 from a stores keeper. And the remaining balance of $36,869 is coming from the general fund balance. Any questions on that?
This is Sharon. I just want to supplement in case of any confusion. This has to do with January vacant positions and the excess money related to those positions. For example, the website coordinator position has now gloriously been filled by someone we are very excited joining our team next Monday. The stores keeper position is posted, as is the assistant personnel director, and we just onboarded our new code enforcement officer today.
Thank you for clarifying that.
$2238 is to amend the 22 sewer budget for project analyst and project assistant. This is to cover the cost of two individuals that are assisting us in closing the joint sewage treatment plant project. It's certainly going slower than I ever anticipated. A lot of these bills go back over a year and a half. We're now having to go back to the companies that did the work, have them correct their invoices. They aren't correct in many cases. We do not have the same support staff that we had from Jacobs and GHD, which makes it a little bit more difficult. So these two individuals are doing a lot more legwork to get all the invoicing correct. I will tell you, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We've made a lot of payments this year, getting everything wrapped up. And this takes those two people through the end of March. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that. Angela?
This is Councilwoman Riley. Thank you, Mr.
Go ahead.
Shaker. So this budget increase is for services and lines of employees that are hired for other purposes? Or are
No,
they're
they're currently employed here. They've been employed here, working for the city since probably 2015. Okay, handling the financial aspect of this project, making sure vendors get paid properly. We get all the documentation, pushing things through EFC, getting all the documentation for the loans and things of that nature.
So as of March 2022, they will no longer be retained. That was where I was.
That's my goal, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing with that is half of that, since we're taking it out of the sewer fund balance, half of their bills will get paid back, will be paid by all the other municipalities. Next RL is 2241. That's the Fund Bureau to cover expenses for the Maravito Stadium. This is requesting to transfer $33,000 as part of our contract with Maravito Stadium. We have to pay them $50,000 a year per the contract. Plus, if they do other capital improvement projects, we have to also pay those. And part of the Bureau contract is we have to keep $20,000 in the cash account. We're down to $20,400. And going through this with the auditors, in order for them to not say that we're going to violate that $20,000, they wanted me to move this $33,000 to ensure that the funds, the potential funds the city's required to cover are in the Bank of Bureau. So that's what this transaction's doing. Any questions on that one? And last one is 2248, amend 21 general fund. Phil, do you know which one that one is? Oh, okay, I got it. That one is last year I did a RL to move money into a temporary service line, which is wages that the city are paid to a person. We are not paying this person out of city payroll. We're paying them as a professional service. So it's taking that money and moving it to the proper line. That was for a stores keeper to clean up the inventory at the DPW garage.
Okay, any other questions for Chuck on this one or any of his RLs before he goes? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, let's circle back. Lori, I apologize. Lori's here and I neglected her, but time-wise, we're pretty close to her time. So I'm gonna have Lori come back down. I already talked to Lee. He's gonna go after Franco. So we're gonna get Lori down here to talk about our council chambers.
Evening, everyone. As you can see, we're back in council chambers. I came to the meeting tonight to see, yay, we're back. To see, can everyone hear okay from remotely attending the meetings? Do you have any concerns? Let me know what you think as we've done this meeting so far.
Fabulous.
Okay, you can hear everything?
We can hear really well. My question though is when we have visitors that are in the council and come to the table like you are, will everyone be required to come there so we can see as well as hear? I know many times people have spoken off in the corner.
Or when the meetings are still remote, we're trying to figure out, I think if speakers come to the meeting, I think this is where they will sit for the moment. When council comes back in total to the chambers, I think we're gonna have to figure out where to put the speakers so that they're seen on the television as well. We've got some options that we're trying to work out, but first we wanted to make sure the technology worked and everyone was happy with that. And then we'll give you some other options for the speakers.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, my thought is either where Lori is or over on this corner. That's where we'll have the speakers if they come down here. Councilmember Friedman, go ahead.
So first of all, I have to say thank you so much for all of the technology. The audio is great. My only concern or piece of constructive criticism, I guess, is that we cannot view the name tags of people from here. Whereas actually when we were in the atrium, we were able to. And so I'm just thinking, like, I think most of us can recognize each other's voices, but for viewers who are not familiar, it might, and I don't know how to, amend that issue, but I wonder if we should maybe just be cognizant and maybe announce our set, like people who are in the chambers, just maybe announce their names before speaking. Because, I see like President Strawn's teeny tiny name tag. I definitely, if I didn't recognize his voice, I wouldn't be able to tell who that was.
Okay.
But that's a good point. We could do that and make sure that we say who's actually at the table before. That's a good observation.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe even like make name tags with big letters. And I don't mean like the perfect, the nice ones, but even like a piece of paper or something with like big letters so that it can be viewed from the camera. I don't know, something just to consider.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else?
Yeah, because the camera's way up there. So to get the whole table now, without any of us else here, they could probably zoom it a little bit more. But if then we have more people come down here, so we'll have to figure that out. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, Franco, you've been patient. Do you want to get us started on RL 2249?
Ma'am, good evening, council members. I am speaking from the corner. So not really though. Number 2249, this is to a resolution for the commissioning at the new fire station from a company that specializes in commissioning. I didn't even know what this was until it was brought to my attention that all New York State buildings in its industry standards have these inspection services and they're attached to the RL. So we had interviews and we chose a company called CJ Brown to do that for us.
Okay, any questions on 2249?
Yeah.
Councilman Burns, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Franco.
Hi, Councilman.
Is that a once a year thing or just once the place is built, or?
Councilman, from what I see and from their proposal, this will go on pretty much until the end of the project. And it looks like the second to last page, I believe they have some dates that they're coming back to. I believe one is 1 year after it is complete, because it's going to be done if everything goes right towards the fall. So they're going to have to check the air conditioning units the following year. So there's some things that they're going to have to check the following season, but this is for the whole entire new fire station. And it's just the one project right now. We have been thinking about getting a commissioning service for other possible buildings that we do. So that is something we are thinking about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, tell us about RL 2226.
RL 2226 concerns the joint sewage treatment plant, as Chuck he was mentioning earlier. This is a change order, and it's for the amount of $43,020. The original contract went over its 25%. So therefore, we need council's approval on anything, and it looked like that went over quite a while ago. But we are in the process of getting everything completed. And I believe this is the last major thing that needs to be done there. Or has been done, excuse me.
Councilmember Friedman, go ahead.
Thank you, President Strong. My favorite question, can you please tell us why you're asking for this to be expedited?
I believe we're asking, this was not my expediting, even though I do have a couple in there that I did ask for expeditiously expedited. I don't know if that's a good word. Hopefully nobody's an English major. This one is just as Chuck had described, just to get this going and get this project out of our hairs.
Aviva, this is Chuck. We need these things, this expedited so we can get this bill paid and get the project done before the end of March.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
You're fine.
Okay, Franco, go ahead with 2229.
2229 is another one for our fire station. This involves the special inspections and material testing there. This is a formal agreement just for the fire station to enter it with Keystone Associates. And you'll see the detachment in the designers there, and along with New York State Building Code, require those tests for as far as the safety and occupancy also.
Okay, Councilmember Friedman, go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering if you could tell us why you're asking for this one to be expedited as well.
This one is because the tests need to have been started, and they were started under our term agreements before with them. But this is something that we would like to get have under contract for this specific project, Councilwoman. So as of right now, the two that I'm asking for special expedition is the commissioning and this one right here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on 2229 before we move forward? Okay, go ahead, Franco, with 2230.
2230 does not need to be expedited, and hopefully it isn't, but this is just for the, as it says, for the additional time to investigate and test the persistent wetness over at Recreation Park tennis courts. And that work will commence April into May.
Any questions on 2230?
I
Councilman
have-
Burns,
oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi Franco. Did they have any idea of what the problem is?
It's got to do with the top course, Councilman. So that is what they're there for. And we do have a plan of action right now. And it is going to start in April and in May. But somehow the water is entering into the top course
Right, so
and through the pavement coatings.
is it something that they dug up?
This is Mayor Cram here. I was involved in the project prior and still I am. So through some different testing, it was determined that there is no issue with the drainage itself. What was installed is meeting our spec. And actually, we did some additional drainage. There was an issue with the top coat that was put on, the actual asphalt. So our contractor will be changing that asphalt out in the springtime at no cost to the city. And we'll need additional inspection and construction management while that's ongoing, again, which will be sought by that contractor. So it was determined through a bunch of forensic testing that the asphalt itself, the top coat, was kind of the culprit, and that's going to be switched out come the springtime.
Thanks, Mayor. That's great.
How long did you say that would take, Franco? I'm sorry. Did you say that already?
We're going to start that, Councilwoman. We're going to start that in April, the earliest, but definitely in May. And it should take a couple of months.
Oh, a couple months. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey,
Go
Mayor, is there any word about the professionals coming back? Are they coming back this summer?
Yes, the Binghamton Tennis Challenger is scheduled for July. I think they're finalizing the date mid-July, and that tournament will be back for this year.
Awesome, thanks.
And all the work will be done with much time to spare for that tournament.
That is fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. Tell us about 2246.
2246 is for two different locations that we had to do emergency sewer work at. One is 503 Shenango Street, and the other one is 19 Richmond Avenue. And because the project went over the 25%, we need council's approval. And that was done by our emergency contractor, Albert Torto Construction. And you'll see the next 3 pages attached have their invoices. The first 2 are for 503 Shenango Street, and the last one is for 19 Richmond. And that is for the 2021 emergency contract.
Any questions on 2246?
And that does not need to be expedited.
Thank you. Okay, 2247, wrap us up.
2247, I think, is a good one too. The state has given us more money for the right-of-way acquisitions and incidentals that we had asked for additional money for our consultants. And now the state has added additional funding to that project because it's getting quite expensive. And that's the entire distance of Main Street from front to the arch.
Okay, that's great. Any questions for Franco on 2247 or any of the other RLs before we let him go? Okay, thank you, Franco. We appreciate it.
Thank you, members. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Okay, we'll let Lee wrap us up here. He can double back to the correcting various tax rolls and then give us any updates or anything that we need to be aware of for pending legislation.
Okay, so if you're having deja vu, that's because we did this at the last work session, but we did get another batch of tax rolls that need to be corrected from the county. These are actually just clerical errors this time. It looks like the addresses are 43 Robinson Street and 159 Washington Street. And actually, if it's okay with City Council, we can just add these to the legislation that we're doing on Wednesday to correct those other tax rolls. But that's entirely up to you guys if you want to do that or not.
I'm okay with that. So we just have one vote. Is everybody else okay with that?
This is
I'm
Sharon.
fine with that.
Go ahead.
From the law department's perspective, that is advisable as it increases the efficiency and enhances our ability to search the legislative database per annum, such that there's one piece of legislation that has to do with the tax roll correction. So we would advise for efficiency and resourcefulness purposes to include it all in one.
Okay, go ahead and add that for Wednesday then. That'd be great.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That saves us a lot of time. And now we have pending legislation. There's a lot here for Wednesday. If anyone has any questions on this, I'll give you a minute to read through it. And we do have the bond ordinance. You'll notice RL 22-22. I believe we have some public hearings as well.
How many public hearings do we have Wednesday?
I believe it's 2. One for the bond and one for the RL that Megan presented earlier.
Okay.
Yes, RL 22-37.
Okay. Okay, anybody have anything for the good of the order, anything you want to bring up or mention? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn our work session.
So moved.
Okay, have a good night, everybody. See you Wednesday.